Hello and welcome everyone in another episode of Researchers Celebrity. Today we have Akshaya, Thulasi, Sathyanaryana with us, and this conversation is going to be a different as we had so many conversations till now, and I will explain how it will be. Before that, I'll say let's give the introduction of our today's speaker. Akshaya has done her bachelor's in psychology and then did a PG diploma in counseling and psychotherapy from University of Madras. Then she moved to SRIIHER and did her master's in science in mind, body, and lifestyle sciences. And now currently she is an assistant professor in mind, body, and life science department, and also a PhD student in behavioral sciences at SRIIHER. With this brief introduction, I'll say thank you so much, Akshaya, for taking time out for this conversation and welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for inviting me.
We always start our conversation that how and when you decided that you want to become a researcher.
I started off as a BSc in, I started doing psychology in 11th and 12th. So it was very interesting. I was supposed to be a lawyer, but then I ended up being a psychologist. So after that, I just joined a PG after my bachelor's. So there, a couple of people were, doing research in master's course. So we had classes together, and then they were like, we have a presentation coming up, like a conference. So I thought, okay, let's present. And then I did my first research there. So that's when I decided that I actually wanted to do this for, you know, however long it interests me. So ever since then, I've done at least 10 projects. So it was in 2021 that I decided that I'll study human behavior in depth through scientific way.
So how have this journey have been for almost 5 years or 4 years?
Oh, it's very interesting. So I set out to be a clinical psychologist. Then, it took turn, and then I got introduced to mind-body medicine, and the real interest took, flight when I came to Srihar. So I started, I did not have resources in University of Madras that I had here. Here I had real-time patients, I had HRV, I had all the other physiological instruments that supported. So there it was more of purely social sciences, but then here you had a lot of other things. So I was able to, capture a lot of other things here, and it just took flight. And I met a lot of people, and it just went from there.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So now we will start with the PhD. Like you already had your bachelor's, master's, everything done, and you
Yep.
could have just probably already doing the practice. Then what made you start the PhD in the first place?
Okay, so I finished my master's and I was about to go to UK for my practice. Then suddenly there was this one opportunity that came up. So my mentor just called me up and said, there is this one funded project and that requires a psychologist. I was like, yeah, but then I decided I will practice. I'll do my PhD later. She was like, no, 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 you should listen to it. So it was a Spark funded project, and the PI is from Srihar. And I went met her. It was a very interesting topic. They were working on communication, attentiveness, and respect and empathy, and how that should be taught to students, which will make them a better doctor. So it was an undergrad medical education project. So I was like, okay, fine, but what's my role? And then they told, this is what you should be doing. So basically, you get trained. Medical students just get trained in being a physician, not in this aspect. So your inputs on how to train would help them. Then I dropped the plan to go and practice, and I just joined the project. So in order to join the project, I should be a PhD fellow. I just joined PhD.
Hmm. So
Yeah.
PhD is like if we can say, and I can take the liberty to say that
Hmm.
PhD was not your first choice.
No, PhD was there, but then I just had delayed it. But then the project just gave me, it was just a catalyst to speed up the process.
Mm-hmm.
So I had because when I was doing my bachelor's, I very well remember. So my professor in one class asked, "What? Where do you see yourself in another 5 years?" So I had wrote map. Okay, so I know it would sound stupid. Bachelor's, master's, MPhil, PhD, which meant nine years of education, and I was like it was since I was doing in clinical psychology, I had a very clear roadmap. Master's particular more, we have to clear NET. I have to go to MPhil. I have to finish MPhil, join PhD. But then after I joined master mind body medicine, it took a turn. I was like, okay, let's not rush into things. Let's delay PhD. But then this came up. Then I was like, okay, probably what I manifested long back then to finish my PhD in by 2027 or 2028 is coming through in this way. So I just joined.
Nice, nice. No, I
Yeah.
think this makes a little bit more clear that when you were doing your bachelor's, you already had this clarity that you wanted to do
Yes.
PhD. So PhD was
Yes.
always on the board. The way it came is different. So based on
Yes.
your
Yes.
experience, if you can say that, what are the things which a student should consider before committing to PhD?
First thing is that you should have curiosity. You should have patience. And most of all, you should want it. You should not just do it for name's sake. Until and unless you feel like you are up for it, please don't take it up. Because I do see my peers who just took it up because they wanted to wait for the job market to get better, or it's just that they want to add the title to their name. But then it does not work that way, right? You just should have some passion to do something and learn something. So PhD is more than a degree, it's a process of learning. And I don't see that in many people nowadays. So until and unless you're passionate about research, you want to do something and you want to learn out of it. I mean, it's a very bumpy ride, but then if you're up for it, take it up. Otherwise, I would like, you can do research in other ways too.
Nice, nice, absolutely. And I will say to all the audience who are listening to this conversation and PhD is on your mind, yes, as Akshay clearly said, some people do this for adding this title to their name, doctor. My PhD supervisor, Dr. T. Adak, he says one thing, that PhD does not only give you this name, it transforms you as a person also. So you are not the same person who start a PhD and who finish. And there we will get into details of how bumpy that ride is and all the various differences what you have to face is, which not many of us are prepared when we are saying that okay, now PhD will be smooth, or we can handle everything. Now, coming back to your training as psychologist and then mind, body, and lifestyle sciences, all of this groundwork, which we can say that you have done,
Mhm.
you were able to connect that to PhD in behavioral sciences.
Yes.
How you made these connections, and based off that, what you can suggest to people who are thinking because their passion lies in somewhere else, but their bachelor's and master's they did not get trained for that.
Yeah, so I did my bachelor's, and towards the end of my bachelor's, we had COVID. So I graduated during COVID. My final year was during COVID, so which meant I did not get internship opportunities. I was doing online internships, and honestly, for some profession like being a psychologist, if you're not able to see patients in direct, and if you're not able to assess them, not patients, clients in direct, it's going to be a problem. So that was the first obstacle that I had. So I joined postgraduate diploma in counseling and psychotherapy because I did not again want to go and join my master's during COVID. But then that's where I actually got trained. So in various ways. So we had internships, like half my program went in internship, and we had in-class trainings. So I got trained as a psychotherapist there, and I came out, and I also joined as in, intern under one of my mentor. And I also got rigorously trained there. So that was the foundation for my psychotherapy practice. So I learned a lot of things in hand, basically. And when you sit with people, when you are in a room, when you're trained with one on one, is when you gain that experience, when you'll be able to learn the skill. So from there, I went to mind body medicine, so which was a completely different stream, a very new one. So why I took that up was one, I was interested in health psychology. The other was to understand how our mind and body is connected. We know that it's connected. Like if I want to lift my hand, I'm lifting my hand. But then what makes me do that? Let's say, um, what do you eat when you are very upset?
Sweet.
And what does that do to you?
Contentness.
Contentness. Automatically, you will have that little bit of happiness that comes from you.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Yeah. So there is a mechanism behind that, right? So there is something called gut-brain axis, and
mm-hmm.
automatically that generates dopamine in your brain, and automatically you become happy, right? So let's say there are so many other things like this in our behavior. So our behavior have different kinds of mechanisms. When you understand that mechanism, won't it be easier to target certain diseases or disorders and treat them in an efficient way? Right. So there was this one paper that I worked on. So it was an addiction paper. So each addiction has different mechanism. So when we mapped out the mechanism for each addiction, and when we mapped down the intervention for each therapy, we were able to see which worked for which addiction. So I would have not done this if I was just in the psychology stream. So I integrated my psychology base with what mind body medicine had to offer. And given that our lifestyle plays a vital role in whatever behavior we have. So behavior is nothing but anything that we do or we respond to the stimuli, right? So basically, me talking to you is a behavior. The way I sit would be a behavior. Anything that involves an interaction, anything that involves a response is a behavior. So I started analyzing the mechanism behind these behaviors and understood what is the underlying psychological processes and how this has an, you know, vice versa effect, which made my understanding of the psyche better and also the physiological response better, which made me a better person. I mean, the perspective changed, and I was able to integrate my psychotherapy training with the health and wellness coach training. So basically, when you go through the MSc Mind, Body, and Lifestyle Science program, you become a health and wellness coach, which means you understand the anatomy of the body, you understand the lifestyle disorders, you understand all these, and it's about how you integrate what you learn and how you strengthen that to your previous practice that you were doing. So we have had a couple of physiotherapists, exercise physiologists, nutritionists, but from my perspective, this is what I did. I was able to understand the human body better, which made me understand the human mind better. So from there, I went into communication, so which is a completely different aspect.
So let's talk about the stress of PhD. Okay, you,
Yes.
your friends, your colleagues, your peers
Yeah.
who are not
Hmm.
well trained like you as a
Hmm.
health and wellness coach. Okay,
Hmm.
how do you deal with them, or what do you suggest to our audience here, those PhD students who are going through that stress?
It's a very tricky question because I am number one to freak out when things go south. Okay, so I have had episodes where like, oh my God, what I'm gonna do, what I'm gonna do, what I'm gonna do. So yeah, I mean, yeah, but then I do come out of that spiral easily. But then for some people it hits late. And there are people in my batch who delayed taking their first year exam because the stress was dawning on them. But then ultimately it's about finding your rhythm. I found my rhythm by sitting down, reflecting on what is happening around me and what I'm supposed to do. And then, I chose what to do and what not to do. So basically, you have to sit down, analyze. So basically, is this what you want? And just choose the right pathway. So let's say you have multiple options to do or react to whatever is happening. You have to choose which one is best. And ultimately, what works best for me is that I go sit and talk to my guide. So I built my rapport with my guide very well. So that was the first thing that I did because when you have a very good rapport with your guide, it actually helps, right? So they listen to she listens to me, and when I just told this one thing to her, I have flight of ideas. I have impulsivity, and I'm also eccentric. So, which means if I'm interested in something, I might also deviate. So, please don't think that you're being rude to stop me, but then please stop me if I'm deviating. And she was like, it's okay, that happens. So that is the learning curve that you have. So even recently in my RAC meeting, she was like, you're having that thing, you want to do multiple things, please don't do that. Cut down. And I was like, ma'am, but then it's very easy. She was like, no, you'll go beyond your timeline. So she was able to give me that feedback because I gave her the liberty and I did not judge. And at the same time, when she told something, I should also be in the receiving end that I should accept it. So when you have that openness and a very good rapport with your guide, it also makes your life easier. And also have a lot of social support. Have hobbies is what I do. I have a pet. I go out on drives and trust me, I made this rule. So basically I used to be a workaholic. I also work on Sundays. So ever since I joined PhD, the one rule that I have is I'll not work on Sundays. And I sleep that day. I try to get as much as sleep possible, and it gets through. You know, I can get through anything if I'm maintaining this.
Absolutely. And I think this is also important for all the PhD students, either starting or about to finish, that whenever you join a lab, when you are ready to commit for PhD, setting up those, uh, what we will say, that expectations, that what you want from your guide and what guide want from you, setting up the feedback mechanism, as Akshay mentioned, that she herself said that, okay, don't feel it rude. If you have to stop me, just stop me because I have plenty of ideas. And I think that is true for most of the young researchers. And in fact, some of us, even at the later stages, we have always plenty of ideas. But some of them mature really nicely, and then they know that what they want to do and keep focus. So having this setup, that you are ready also to take the feedback from your supervisor. Just following anyone's, either the researcher is doing everything on its own, or they are just following the guidelines set up by the PI. You might be able to accomplish your PhD as and when it is due, but what you are going to miss is the training part of it, because troubleshooting, teamwork, these are all the part of PhDs, and that's what we see sometimes when a person who has excelled in the lab, did a great work in research, published plenty of papers, when they move to new country or another group, they feel miserable because there were things which were not taught. And research is part of the life of researcher, having all these other, as Akshay mentioned about the communication, mind, well, body, what not all, like having the friend circle near you, which actually is a support system. So Akshay, you mentioned about you have a pet and friends and all that. If I will ask that, what is your support system when you want to come out of that spiral and it is taking more than the usual time?
So I did have one spiral. So if I don't mind talking about it. So I joined last October, right? And I was new to both handling our project and PhD. So I had two deadlines. I'm a multitasking person, so I took this PhD as a challenge. Okay, let's see what is the challenge. So I was just, I had all the adrenaline, yeah, I will do it. But then December went, I was stepping into January. Workload is so much. And it was completely new arena. I do not know educational research. I do not know what is happening in medical education. I do not know AdCom. So a lot of reading was happening. I was excited. Nice, this is what happens and other stuff. On the other hand, I had my PhD proposals, presentations, and other stuff. It went fine, but then I immediately went into burnout because I overworked myself. And I have this one ritual. So the moment I go home, I spend half an hour with my pet, no matter what. So I had that, but then that was not enough. So I went into a spiral that I took off to Bangalore on Pongal. So I told my parents I'm going to my brother's place. I just took off and I did not have a written ticket. I just texted my guide saying that I am taking a very long vacation along with Pongal holidays. She was like, okay, take care of yourself. Reach out to me once you're okay. She understood something was wrong. I mean, that's what I said. I had a very good rapport with her. I mean, I made sure I sit and talk to her every day for at least 10 minutes to understand what I'm doing and what she's doing. And then for 4 days, I turned off my phone. I just shut myself from the world and I was with my brother. And I went to Comic Con. And then I realized that I was feeling overwhelmed because I had no idea where I was going. So, I started lots of things and I had a lot of things to learn. And I just went into a spiral because it started overwhelming. I started getting overwhelmed. So I shut myself. But then when I came, I made sure that when I came, I had a clarity on what I was doing, where I headed, and I made sure that I saw the direction. So you go into a spiral when you do not you when you do not know where you're headed, right? So I took 4 days off. I did not work. I did not even think about my PhD or my college. I just made sure I reconnected with myself. I just enjoyed people around me. And then the moment I came back to Chennai, sorted everything out. So I had to clear my head. So which we often do not know. It's okay. These two shall pass is the attitude that we have. We will tell that okay, this week is hectic. Probably next week we'll just catch up on it. So when we play the catch up game, we just end up getting overwhelmed and we go into burnout. So it is I rewinded by taking a very long break. But then when I came back, I made sure I do not go into that burnout. How? By having realistic timelines and by setting one buffer day. So that is when I decided I'll not work for one day in my whole week. So one day where I will not touch my laptop, where I will not look into anything that is related to my PhD or project.
Nice. I think this is a very important point whenever it comes to burnout. In India and globally, this is something which now people started talking, but I think there is a lot needs to be done. How do we know? Because you, with your clinical psychology and all the expertise, if you can tell that how a researcher at any stage of their life, wherever they are,
Hmm.
can understand that now they are into that burnout phase.
So the basic signs are you have laziness waking up or you have lethargy kicking in. So you will be able to see that you have some brain fog. Starts with brain fog. You'll not be able to think clearly, and sometimes your appetite goes down. Your interest toward things lessens. So basically, something that you might find joyful to do will automatically feel like a chore rather than you enjoying it. You start feeling like, ayo, should I do this? Ayo, I'm doing this for so long. So when you start feeling that way, it's the starting. And then when you do not have joy in what you do, you do not feel like waking up, and waking up and going to the lab might be a tedious task for you. And even enjoying one proper meal might feel like a dreadful thing. And these are basic signs that comes to my top of my head. And you might not feel like you won't plan anything ahead to make yourself enjoyable, and you'll feel like then பார்த்துக்கலாம். So you think that this is laziness or lethargy, but then these are signs that you need to take a break.
Absolutely. And I think whosoever is listening to this conversation now is aware of the signs of burnouts. Acknowledge them, take that break, and then come back. Rejuvenation is very important and very less talked about in research community. So everyone can have their own way of rejuvenation, and I believe that if your friend circle is good, they can tell you. If you are like in good terms with your family, they can tell you. There are always people around you who can tell you, but the most important thing is you are the person who knows what makes you happy. So it can be anything apart from some things which we should avoid, so never take that path. And now in researchers there are things which are coming up more and more and more. Speaking of which, Akshaya, in
Mm.
India we have seen now cases that PhD students dropout rate is increasing a lot, and also the number of suicides in PhD students have been on rise.
Interesting. Yep.
So how can we acknowledge these important topics?
See, as you likely said previously, so the depression rates or burnout rates. So, when you compare the general population and the PhD cohort, it's 60% higher among them. And these people have clinically significant symptoms for anxiety and depression, which goes unnoticed or they do not even acknowledge it and they just live with it. So what happens when you live with all of these? It tends to take a toll on your body, takes a toll on your mind, right? And apart from that, if you take the Indian context, the suicide rate gets higher when you have a lot of pressure, when you do not have people to talk to, and when you see people around you, you know, just growing, and then there is this societal pressure. And at the end, there's also the financial constraints, lack of funding, or the stipend is not enough, and then you have a lot of other commitments with that. These are some of the common, reasons why there is a lot of suicide: a lack of social support, a lack of balance in work life and personal life, financial constraints, and it's probably because they are overwhelmed and they have always, avoided or they have not acknowledged their body or their mind at all. So these are some of the problems. But then at the institutional level, the some of the measures can be taken, checking in with the scholars from time to time, seeing what resources needs to be given, and other things like that can actually help.
Absolutely. And I think that is what we are seeing in India coming up. Like now, most of the elite research institutes have this counseling department where you have
Yes.
therapists you can go and talk to. And one of those things, which again, circling back, like when you are joining the lab, having these clear conversation with your supervisors, that what is your timeline, what are their timelines, before committing you all like, yes, we cannot expect the 100% clarity of how it will go, but if you do not have at least 70 bare minimum or 80%, that how, what timelines you are looking at, number of hours, days, all of this, because a, it takes out stress, and b, it keeps you always realistic, because you're like, now we had this conversation, this is what we have agreed upon, so you can always refer it back. And in some of the places and institutes in the world, I have known that they have this written down, so this is a document, so it's not a verbal communication only, so you can always refer back to those documents, that see, this is what we committed to, agreed to.
But then there is also, I'm sorry to cut you, but then there is this also the factor that many people are not assertive, right? Assertive is just being able to say no.
Mhm.
But then I think that is one of the major reason why all of these are rising. I'll tell you, for instance, I have a couple of colleagues with me who cannot say no to their guide at all. In fact, meeting her is a very difficult. task for them. So when things like this do come up, assertiveness is one thing that comes into question. Am I assertive enough? Am I prioritizing myself? Am I giving importance to what I am doing? And am I taking a stand for myself? Becomes the question here. If you're not doing that, it's high time we actually cultivate that culture, right?
Yes.
Me being able to say no when I feel like it's a no.
Agree. And I think this is also something which now changing with more younger PIs coming into academia in India,
Mm,
that how they are bringing actually this conversation that a student have their own life and PI also have their own life. They have drawn this work-life balance very
boundaries.
clearly. So that is also one thing which India is working good in. But again, coming back to those things that you mentioned that the PI cannot read
Mm,
the mind of a student. So the student has to speak up.
have to speak up. Yes,
And this is something which we always encourage in these conversations, that until you speak, nobody knows what is going on with you. People
exactly.
might see that you look upset, you are lethargic, not meeting your deadlines, but they can assume so many things. So if you want help, you have to seek for it. And now, with Empowering Science Foundation, STEM for Society, we are there to support every single researcher who are facing any kind of challenge with the help of our celebrities like Akshaya today. We have this network that if you need this, we are there to support you. But there is no way anything can come in my dream and then I'll start contacting people that, okay, I saw this dream and you are suffering like that. That's not how it works. Let's be more realistic. Either it is for research, either it is for personal priorities, because researchers are human and we do have social circle responsibilities outside of our work. You cannot just sacrifice everything for that. And having again your priorities sorted, at some point you have to attend a wedding of your friend or family member, then you have to put brakes on your experiments for that period of time. And sometimes you choose that, okay, these experiments are like either revision for your publication manuscript or something like deadline for your project submission. That's when again you decide. But there is one need which is very important and should be acknowledged in researchers globally, that having written down things helps you a lot, because then you can track them back, that on that day I committed this to myself, and now you are more accountable towards yourself. And the same you can do with your mentor or your mentee. Coming up with the let's say the last question for today, Akshaya. As a clinical psychologist
Not a
trained now,
clinical psychologist.
yes,
I'm a
okay,
psychotherapist. Yes.
psychotherapist, okay,
Yeah.
psychotherapist, and now doing behavioral sciences,
Hmm.
what have you observed? Because Srihar is a big institution. You see people from all different, either engineering, life sciences, and what not all. What is the reason that why this anxiety, depression is increasing logarithmically in students?
So there are many reasons. So uh, not everyone is, you know, cur like I said, the curiosity is not there. So what happens automatically, your like you just learn in the classroom or whatever is taught. But the one thing that I found to be lacking is the skill. So what happens is when you study and go to the college, from college you go to a job. The first thing that is asked is what skills you have, what do you bring to the table. With the increasing job market and a lot of competition, skill becomes the first thing. Second, the fear of missing out. What am I missing out in the life? People are ahead. There are 24-year-olds who are retiring. And when I see that on Instagram, automatically like, why am I not doing this? Okay, let me try something. And when they do not think and do, automatically what happens is that they might fall into a pit hole, they might have some failures, and instead of taking that failures as a learning opportunity, when they take it too close to their heart, another thing rises up. They, undergo all these sadness and being upset, and that takes a toll on them. So one is this. The other thing is predominantly we are all latched to a device now. We do not have that human touch or connection. If you, let's say you get an email right now, you can you get a professional mail, but then it's not from their brain. It's from chat GPT or perplexity or anything. So you have this device, you either play on that thing, you go to Instagram, look at other people's life, or you just, reply and do all your work through that. But where is that use of the brain? Where is that use of your amygdala, which gives you emotions? You have to get in touch with yourself to, go through all those emotions or the thought process, or to, reflect. Why is reflection given importance now? Because we are not thinking way too much. We used to think too much before, right? So one of the other thing is we have lost touch with ourselves. So the one thing that, you know oh my God, what am I going to do without my simple there's this simple example. Okay, so I'll just put myself in the shoes and I'll let you know. I do not use my phone for chatting. Okay, you text me on WhatsApp. I'll My earliest reply would be after 6 hours, 8 hours. But then, my friend, when I leave my phone on the desk and I go, and then the first thing is, oh, your phone again, phone again, phone again. For a person who does not use phone, I still get that anxiety. Just think, what if one day there is no internet, there is no phone, there is nothing? What happens to the world? Anxiety will start kicking in. But this is in different way. I am not going to prioritize anything, but then I'm going to live my life. Like, I'm going to use Snapchat, I'm going to use everything. But then I want everything. At the same time, I have nothing. This people will not realize, but then this is the major effect that we have. We feel like we have everything, but then we have nothing. And that's when anxiety stems. Talking from a student perspective, because the moment they leave from college to a job, they'll be like, oh my God, what have I done? But then they do not realize it, but then that's the reality. So that's when people start feeling anxious, then they'll be like, okay, I have to do this, I have to do that. And then one thing leads to other. So these are some of the common triggers, and other thing is social support. We do not
Mhm.
talk to people. We do not engage in our environment, which is actually, depressing. We are a very populous country, but
Mhm.
we feel we have, significant rise in loneliness.
Yes.
Yeah, so I would wrote down to, environment and societal major, thing.
Yeah, no, I think that is true and well summed up that for all PhD students specifically, you should, instead of learning the experiments or methodologies, working on skill set, that what are the skills you are taking out of your PhD and what are the next skill set you want for your future career. That's how you should approach it. And also with this world, social media, the distraction is everywhere. It is up to you that you want to keep it more human, having just one or two friends, or having thousands of them and nobody is there when you need them. So making that fine balance is what is required. And with this, we'll say thank you so much, Akshaya, for taking time out for this conversation and at least telling all this next generation to be more human than a social media machine.
Thank you so much for having me.
It was a pleasure. For all the audience, I'll say that stay connected. And for the next episode of Researcher Celebrity, if you need to write to Akshaya, you can write to her. If you want us to put you in touch with our Researcher Celebrity, we are there. Just do whatever makes you happy. And if research happen to be that, we are there to support you. Thank you so much, Akshaya.
Thank you so much. Have a nice day.